inspires the baby's questions. What's that?
How can we, as a community, positively affect the lives of black men so that black men can continue to positively impact the world?
Can I ask my question first, please? I want to ask you a quick question. How can we hold ourselves accountable when we don't know why we think the way that we think? The first thing is we cannot be held accountable if we don't know what's wrong with us.
But no one stopped to think about the babies. Oh. But no one stopped to think about the babies. Oh. But no one stopped to think about the babies. Oh. But no one stopped to think about the babies. Oh.
No child left behind from being profiled. No smiles in every picture, pitching coke vows. Imagine babies being born with a black mask and a bullseye birthmark on our black ass. While Officer Loman shot to mid that fast. 400 years of fear appeared in the gap blast. They ain't tell us we be murdered by the policia. Ooh, child, they said things were gonna get easier. They ain't tell us we be crucified in the media. Turned into a hashtag highlights on Wikipedia. The rich get greedier, the poor more needier. The hood seedier, lock us up instead of freeing us. Who speaks for us? We ain't listening when you preach to us. So concerned when we can only learn what you teaching us. If love is a lap dance and hip hop is rap bands, our babies, they don't stand a fat chance. Damn.
But no one stopped to think about the babies. Oh. But no one stopped to think about the babies. Oh. But no one stopped to think about the babies. Oh. But no one stopped to think about the babies. Oh.
Is there a childhood for black babies? Criminalized their birth, they called us crack babies, that's crazy. But we ain't never heard them talking about a meth child. White supremacy means always having the best child. Why they hand us a death style with a fresh smile? Man, tell me how to protect child from projectiles. We need God to bless a child with a vest now. How we being raised if all of our days are letdowns? See, we inherited ideals that our parents lived. Taught us to go to war and treat us like we terrorists. Then act all shocked when it's babies we burying. But killing for what you want is just being American. They teach us to worship Jesus but curse his features. But whitewashing the Savior just made them the worst believers. Then point to the flag and tell us to pledge allegiance to a place they still treat us like a stillborn fetus. Believe it.
But no one stopped to think about the babies. Oh. But no one stopped to think about the babies. Oh. But no one stopped to think about the babies. Oh. But no one stopped to think about the babies. Oh.
Community Defender Talk Show, one powerful hour of truth dispelling falsehood. I'm your host, Brother Darrell Muhammad.
And I'm Sister Deborah Muhammad, and welcome to the Community Defender Talk Show.
And of course, we're very excited tonight as this is the first live show of the year 2016. And so we've been on for a little over 17 years now. And as the community defender in this area
positively affect the lives of black men so that black men
and of course we want to take this time
impact the world.
Of course, thank Almighty God a lot for the voice that He's allowed us to have. And we've done our best to be
the first thing is we cannot be held accountable
the voice that He has allowed us to have. And we want to thank all of the viewers who have been watching the Community Defender for nearly 2 decades, watching this and looking at it. And we're just glad that God has blessed us to be accurate in the commentary that we've had, more accurate than CNN, more accurate than MSNBC, more accurate, of course, which is real easy, than Fox. And so we're just grateful to God going into 2016.
And also breaking some news stories that, the Community Defender was fortunate enough to be able to do first, such as the Bell case with the Jenna 6, and of course with Reverend White and of course his son. And so, Allah has blessed the Community Defender Talk Show to be really a vanguard here in Louisiana, and of course the Acadiana Parish for national news stories as well.
Absolutely, yeah, and a lot of that, started right here in these humble studios.
Absolutely.
On AOC, and God has really blessed us, and so
I mean, our producer Khadija actually coined the term Genesis.
absolutely,
Yes,
Isn't that
absolutely.
something?
Absolutely.
right here at AOC on the Community Defender. So I mean, it's really been an awesome ride, and we hope to continue the success of bringing the kind of commentary that needs to be brought in these days and times. Now, of course, we know that tomorrow is Martin Luther King holiday.
Correct.
And I love this time because we get a chance to talk about a man and his evolution. But there's a part of this time of year that I don't like, because you have a bunch of cowards holding ceremonies, marches, and candlelight vigils to honor a man of courage.
Right.
And though they are not involved in the same kinds of protests and in the same kind of activism as Dr. King would
And
never
civil
do so,
disobedience.
and civil disobedience, they yet put their endorsement supposedly on a man who was an advocate of justice, not just talking, but organizing things.
Right.
And one of the things that he wanted to organize and was working on, as well as Medgar Evers was working on when he was assassinated, and that was a boycott of Christmas.
I think Medgar Evers actually carried it out.
Yeah, well, but what I'm saying, in the
Right.
middle of it, he was
The next
killed,
year,
and then,
yeah,
as you
absolutely.
know, when you kill the leader of something,
Right.
it slows it down
Right.
significantly. So the thing is that what happened this December, this November and December, was very successful.
Correct.
We see that the largest retailer is announcing the closure.
Let's go back and say what happened this December and November, and that was, we led a Christmas boycott, a boycott of Christmas, and and the major retailers, and of course the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan called for it, and it was successful.
Very
You
successful.
see Macy's, they're about to close. They said that they're about to lay off. Walmart, I saw on Facebook, was about to lay off 500 workers at one job, and they said they give them less than a 30-day notice. So our collective efforts and have actually proven to be very effective. And so with all the killings that are occurring in our communities, we know that where we hit them where it hurts, and that's in their pocket. And so if we come together unified, that we can actually make a change, more so than we can with a lot of the symbol without substance, or begging someone to do something for us that we can do for ourselves. When we come together in unity and we hit them where it hurts,
That's right.
and the bottom line for them, their God is money. So when we actually go at them straight away, then we'll see a change.
Absolutely, and the thing I would say in that is that the boycott Christmas, starting with Black Friday, has been extremely successful. Of course, it could have always been more successful, but what we have to do as Black people, I said today on Facebook that Keith Sweat asked a question years ago: "How deep is your love?"
And so did the Bee Gees.
And that's right. So did the Bee Gees. But we're gonna stick with our brother Keith Sweat.
Okay.
Can we stick with our brother?
Yes, sir.
All right. Keith Sweat asked the question: "How deep is your love?"
Right.
And what we want to do is ask that same question to our viewing audience as it relates to our people, black people. How deep is your love? Because as we go forward, and this is the wonderful, wonderful thing about the leadership that has been provided by people like the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, is that his leadership does not just produce followers. His leadership is a leadership that produces other leadership. Because as people get older and they are move away from the scene, then what other leadership or what other vanguard is coming behind that leadership?
Right.
And when you have old guard Negro leadership that does not cultivate young people to continue the motion toward total and complete liberation, then what you have is you have a dying off of movement for change.
Right.
So we have the Black Lives Matter movement, which is a youth-based movement, which when things are based in the youth, then they have what? Longevity.
Right.
But as other people who are 16, 17, 18 come into the knowledge of the need for justice, come into the knowledge of themselves, then what needs to happen is those people need to be brought right in to the fight for justice as we move forward, so that a whole new cadre of people are cultivated for new leadership. The thing that the Zionists do is they look at all of the black SGA presidents, and very often the ADL and others watch your leadership. And a lot of times they bring them to Washington, D.C. A lot of times the Zionists will bring them all the way to Israel as the SGA president to take our leadership and our potential leadership and put it under their wing, and then redirect them and their emphasis away from liberation. So what we have to do, and of course I have a child that is a SGA president at a HBCU. And I told him, if the Jews call you, let me know. Because I don't want them diverting you from where we need to be into an area that is not going to achieve justice. And ultimately, though we all live and work in the framework of America, ultimately, justice is going to be where we have a separate state or territory of our own, either on this continent or elsewhere, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, and the Honorable Louis Farrakhan has been saying. And so I wanted to lay that out there because ultimately, if we can't get along in peace, we're going to have to get a divorce, and we want a divorce with alimony. That means that part of what we have been able to produce and help to produce to make America strong, we need to get some of that out so that we can then build a future for ourselves. Now, a case in point to the injustice is that the Black Lives Matter young people, good people, were tear gassed and shot for peaceable protests all over the United States, right? But these people, these militia people in Oregon, who are an armed militia group, wearing bulletproof vests and carrying assault rifles, have been treated by government and the media with kid gloves. Whereas our young people, who were protesting the police murder of black men and black women and black children, were met with tear gas, billet clubs, tasers, and actual bullets. Okay, but these militia people in Oregon, who are law violators, who are literally saying they're going to fight the government, are, they're just able to sit there and occupy federal building, federal land, with no real answer from the government, whereas our young people are shot and open fire on all over the United States. So it should let you know that justice within the framework of the system that now exists cannot happen. And it doesn't matter the color of the president. It doesn't matter the color of the elected representatives. the framework is such that they are not going to stand up to these criminal militia people who have a racist ideology, that have a vision for this lily white America. And the Obama administration, the Oregon State Police, nobody is going to move on them. But when our young people were protesting not prison time for a criminal, they were protesting the murder of an 18-year-old, the murder of Sandra Bland. All of this was met with force, riot gear, and whatnot, but these people are able to walk around, move in and out of federal land, in and out of federal buildings, occupy federal land, and nothing is done. And Bill O'Reilly hasn't called them thugs on Fox News. Go ahead, Sister Deborah. You had something?
Well, I think that the pink elephant in the room here is that we're looking at symptoms. When you're talking about what has happened or the inequity between the response of the government from peaceful protesters and you have armed militia, the responses are really symptomatic of a deeper problem. And so the pink elephant in the room here that we need to address is actually that, and I know a lot of people may not be able to really grasp this because it's a hard concept to understand, but white supremacy racism is a construct in which every human being on the planet at this time is born into. The construct is such that, and Dr. Welsing, our great doctor who just recently passed away, Frances Cress Welsing, talked about this. She did research on it and about white supremacy racism. It's a literal construct. It is what this world is built upon. That's right. And because it is built upon this construct, everything, no matter how you break it down, it always is going to fall on the side of white supremacy racism. White supremacy is the construct on which this world is built. Racism is the tool that is used by the white supremacists in order to manipulate every circumstance and every situation that occurs when you have clearly when you put it on a scale, when you have peaceful protests, armed militia, any fool can see that there's an inequity there.
That's right.
But because racism is the tool that is used to manipulate things through a white supremacist construct, it's always going to fall on the side of white is right. Period. And so if we don't deal with the root of the problem, which is white supremacy, then we can talk about what, the inequities that result, and we could talk about the protests. We could talk about everything that we want to talk about. But until we deal with the fact that white supremacy is the construct upon which this world is built, we will never be able to attack it from its root. And so as the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, he said if you want to kill a tree, you have to expose the root to the light of truth so that it's killed from the root. And so what the root of this is white supremacy, racism. And until we deal with it in a real way, and the converse to white supremacy, racism, is black inferiority.
That's right.
So how deep is your love? The question is, can black people loving themselves is really the issue. You cannot, how deep is your love until you love your black self?
Come on now. There
is nothing that you can do to strike a blow at white supremacy. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad gives us a medication that deals with the self-hatred that we have for ourselves. And he teaches you how to love yourself. And the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teacher, Master Fard Muhammad, came and he said these words: accept your own and be yourself. And in order to accept your own and be yourself, you must love yourself.
Absolutely. And of course, when you look at the knowledge of self, which is a prerequisite to love, because you have to learn of your value. A lot of times, and I know when you deal with women and you work with women every day in raising them up and resurrecting them, and I know that you talk with women, black women, about knowing themselves and knowing their value. their value to God, their value to society, and raising the black woman up to a living perpendicular where she sees herself in a better light and therefore behaves, right, in a better light. And I think that if we begin to teach our people who they are, the original people of the earth, black people, the founders of things like writing, eating with a fork, these are things that we gave the European. We brought the European soap. All of these things need to be known to every black adult and every black child.
Well, what we really need to know is that we are the original people on the planet. And Caucasians are a new man to the planet.
New, very new.
And that's been verified through scientific research. Okay? There was a research study that was done in Helsinki, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they found out is that the gene for blue eyes, which travels along with blonde hair, only showed that mutation showed up between, they say, 6,000 and 10,000 years ago. So when you understand that you are an original person on the planet Earth, then you can have a better appreciation for yourself. The construct of white supremacy racism is built in to every institution that exists on the planet today.
Come on now.
Specifically religion.
Mm-hmm.
We have to give back the religion. I know it may sound hard, but we got to give back Christianity as taught by Caucasians.
That's right. And now Christianity has to be differentiated from the teachings of Jesus.
Who was an original man.
The teachings of that black man that they call Jesus is not the same as Christianity. He did not teach.
And even Jefferson, Thomas Jefferson, the former one of the presidents, so-called founding fathers of the country, he had his own Bible, a Jeffersonian Bible, where he took away all the words and only kept the words of Jesus. So they didn't even accept their own religion.
And he said that he called Paul the first corrupter of Jesus's teaching.
And we had to give back the education. The education, everything in the educational institution is based on white supremacy racism. And that's from one of my professors at Southern University, who is a white man.
Everything is based on that, and it raises you up in a way where you look up to white and look down on your black self. It's set up like that.
We had to give back his name, okay? We're not Brown or Green or Culpeper or Morehouse. That's not our names. We had to give back their names. So we have to give them back everything that they gave us to begin to start to reverse the process of the brainwashing that is taking place under a white supremacist racism construct.
That's real. That's what has to be done. You have to give back those things which hurt you, which serve to undermine your concept of self, the divine concept of self. And we have to understand that we are direct descendants. And this thing undergirds everything. We are direct descendants of the creator of the heavens and the earth.
And then that's when true love can start. Then you'll know how deep your love
is. It's one thing to say we come from kings and queens. Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
But when you understand that you are a direct descendant of God himself, he's the king of all kings.
And what they say, God is what? Love.
God is love. That's what they say. And of course, if God is love, that means he's not just an emotion.
That's right.
Not just an affinity.
That's right.
That the force and power of God now is the thing that black folks have to connect to as we move forward. Now, I wanted to mention this, and that is that when we look at our brother who is going to be honored all over America tomorrow, white folks who advocate the shooting down of black men, a lot of chiefs of police are going to be at Martin Luther King celebrations as a hypocrite, not in favor of treating black people with justice, but going to a ceremony for a man or a candlelight vigil for a man who was an advocate of justice. So you got a lot of hypocrisy going on that I just, quite frankly, it sickens me. Because how in the world can you, on the one hand, be in favor when everything that Dr. King stood for is what the power structure and what the government stands against? Everything that he stood for. And so we got the wrong concept of him. And just like they whitewashed Jesus and gave him back to us in a form that would serve them, they've done the same thing with Martin Luther King. But not understanding that his last speech.
Well, before you go there, I know you want to get to the speech because it's very important. But let's break it down to its basic component. When they gave black people a holiday to commemorate Dr. Martin Luther King's birth, it was a pacifier.
That's all it was.
Don't think that anything that they give you is because they honor the man. It's because they honor his legacy. They gave you a stamp of Malcolm X. Don't think that for 1 minute that they agreed with Malcolm X in the nation or after he left
That's
the
right.
nation.
Come on now.
Those are what you call pacifiers.
Pacifiers.
And we have to stop taking pacifiers because you're going to suck on the pacifier and you'll never really get any real nutrients. Okay?
And that's something, and you can suck as long as you want to.
You're not going to get any
And you're not going to get any. So what we need is justice, which is a satisfier.
Give them back their holidays. We don't want anything from them like a holiday to commemorate somebody that they killed.
Come on now. Just like they murdered Jesus and then gave you Christmas. They murdered Martin Luther King and gave you the King holiday. They orchestrated the murder of Malcolm X and then gave you a stamp. So I mean, you got all of this going on.
Pacifier. Give them back.
And no matter how much you suck on a pacifier, no milk is ever, the baby never gets milk when it sucks on that pacifier.
That's just like my grandbaby. He'll suck on that pacifier for a second and take it and throw it across the room. He has more sense than we do.
Isn't that something? He wants something with some substance, doesn't he? And that's the nature of us. I mean, it's truly amazing how that thing works. Now I know we have a video, and I know Donald Trump is ahead in the polls, and I wanted to mention this. Donald Trump is a person that's independent because he has his own money, and he worries the establishment because he's not really taking their money. So the worry is, if this guy becomes president, can he be controlled? Because he's headstrong, and he's saying things that a lot of people wish they could say out of their racist heart, but he's saying things that they wish they could say, but are not going to say. So there's a worry in the Republican establishment and even in the governmental establishment. Can this boy be controlled? And then is he going to alienate?
Well, just let me say something to alleviate everyone's fears about Donald Trump.
Okay? I'm not scared of him.
I'm not saying that you're scared of him. But trust and believe, if Donald Trump becomes president of the United States, it is because they allowed him to become president of the United States. No one will ever push their way, I don't care how much money they have, into that seat unless if the power structure, the shadow government allowed it. You know how we know this? Because President Bush, the Jr., was elected president by the Supreme Court. So you know that if they want you there, they will break every rule. How many, what they had, missing Chads, dimpled Chads?
All of that foolishness.
Come on now, let's stop being, this is what you call political, what do they call it, theater? That's what this is. So let's stop being sucked into his politics. Give that back too.
I tell you what, now a lot of our people, and of course Barack Obama came to Baton Rouge a few days ago, and our people were so elated at the presence of our brother in the city, who they said is the most powerful man on the earth, and all of this stuff that they were talking. Yet he some kind of way cannot indict a police officer for shooting a man in the back of the head on tape. He can't produce an indictment from the Justice Department, but he's supposed to be so powerful. I think that we overestimate the power of Barack Obama, but it's good symbol. The Honorable Louis Farrakhan said that part of the reason that he was selected before he was elected was so that we black people could have a false hope in this system that it could somehow work. But now once he got in, he was turned in a certain direction. And Satan was able to turn him. And we're not talking about a spook or a spirit Satan. We're talking about real live human beings with a satanic mindset that turned him in a certain direction. One of the things that Minister Farrakhan talked about was how his administration from a foreign policy standpoint was largely an extension of the neoconservative agenda. Now, the good thing I will say about Brother Barack is that he has kind of been a maverick in that he wants to nail down a deal with Iran so that he can close the door, he believes, on a war in the future. Now, or at least make it difficult, more difficult for the neoconservatives to come in on Iran because they want war. They don't want peace. They want war with every country and everybody that they disagree with. They want that person dead. They don't respect anybody's opinion that differs from their opinion in the way of them exploiting and controlling resources. So, and it's interesting that Iran, unlike the United States, is honoring all of their agreements. The Republicans are doing everything in their power, have done everything in their power to shut down the deal so that they can when another president gets in, go straight into war. That's what they want. And that's what a lot of people want. But Barack Obama at least has enough sense to know that that would be a bigger disaster than the other disasters with all of these endless wars. And what Minister Farrakhan said is that the refugee crisis in Europe, as well as all of this money that has been spent out of the Treasury, is the bad judgment of those who control foreign policy, their bad and wicked schemes to control the resources of the earth and to lie to the American people to get America and to get these young people into war. And it's a shame. It's something that Dr. King was very much anti-war, and he spoke out against the Vietnam War. And I would imagine that that leadership that is coming up today, that is the true leadership that black people need, should also be anti-war. I'm gonna make this point before we go to this video, and that is that as a baby is born head first, it means that the leadership, in order for us to come into a new reality, the leadership or the thinkers have to be transformed. They have to be freed in their mind first before the masses of our people can become free. So the beautiful thing about the type of leadership that we've tried to cultivate is we want leadership that produces leadership. Not just leadership where blind and ignorant followers follow, but we want analytical minds. We want intellectual people, hardworking people to follow a path not that leads to pacification, as you spoke against pacification, but something that leads to satisfaction, which is true freedom, justice, and equality. Now, do we have that video queued? Yes. Oh, well, let's go ahead and hear what Minister Farrakhan had to say about this man, Donald Trump.
If you look at Mr. Trump, Mr. Trump is a businessman. Certainly, he's done great things in the business world.
Got a lot of money from his dad that helped.
Oh, yeah, his dad was a nice fella. He ran a little dusty work. And like
millions of dollars. When you start with that, that's pretty good.
Like Mr. Joe Kennedy did.
That's right.
You know,
the booze, right?
White folk are allowed to be criminals and pass on money to their children to become clean. That's what Michael Corleone was trying to do. But Frank Lucas and none of our brothers who've done great in the drug culture, they were not allowed to have any money to pass on to their children that they could build on the era of the father that made something better for the children. But Mr. Trump is tearing away the skin of the onion of white civility. And the more he pulls the skin of that onion back, he's beginning to show something in the character of the whites that follow him, that they don't care what he says. He could say one thing this minute, another thing the next minute, and you could see that the man has a little problem. A little problem. But he is exacerbating the race situation in America. And I will guarantee you, if he becomes president, he'll take America exactly where America is heading. He'll take you there on a rocket ship. How can a man say, he's not a thug, he's a diplomat, he's a president, we'll go into Iraq and we'll just take the oil? See, that's the thug coming out. That's that part of the nature of the beast that's manifesting. Well, if he becomes your president, you'll be just like him. And you know what the scripture says? Pharaoh was talking before his demise, and he openly said, me and my people are wicked. And when you get leadership that is not rooted in justice, then they begin to make the people just like themselves. Be careful, America. You're headed into the abyss of hell. And if you make a mistake in choosing your leaders, maybe you'll go there faster.
And of course, that was the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, and that was the comments that, of course, he had about Donald Trump and those things that Donald Trump has been saying and what the implications of those things are. And I believe that was clear, concise, and passionate language that everybody should be able to understand. Sister Deborah?
Well, I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, if my opinions and my perspective on a lot of the issues that we have in front of us as a people, they could be very simply solved. And that would really just shut down the entire show of the Community Defender. Because as far as I'm concerned, we have to let the white man and his way of life go. We don't, we're talking about politics as if the candidates, you would never become a viable candidate for the position of presidency if you weren't vetted. And we know that if they don't want you, in a position, this position, the most powerful front position in the world, they'll just take you out, they'll kill you. We've already seen that. They'll assassinate you. President Lincoln, assassinated. Wasn't assassinated for freeing the slaves. Go back and follow the money trail. President Kennedy, assassinated. Go back and look at what was going on in Cuba. All of these things, anytime they don't want you, or anytime they will use anybody, they will use a Donald Trump to make the white Americans who feel like America has been taken over by the quote-unquote foreigners, they will use a Donald Trump to appease them. They gave us a black president. Trust and believe Donald Trump, if he becomes president, he's not running anything but his mouth. There's a government called the shadow government that is more powerful than the people that you see. It's the people that you don't see.
That's right.
So don't think for 1 minute that anything that we're talking about is not the politics, even seeing murders on TV of our young black people, that is all orchestrated. There was a time when you could not show a dead body on TV of an American citizen. This is all part of a political and social theater in order to produce within the people fear, so that we will give over, just like with 9/11. that was orchestrated to produce fear so that we would give over all of our rights. In a bill called the Patriot Act, Brother Darrell said he read this. And they passed this through Congress before anybody would have a chance to read it.
I would say this, most of the people, I read all 158 pages of it, of the USA Patriot Act. I downloaded it while I was in law school at Southern Law Center, the entire thing, and read it and did all my cross-referencing and everything, went through the whole law. And I will say that the majority of those people who voted in Congress probably didn't vote, probably didn't even read it. And a lot of times, the politicians don't even read the bills that they vote on very often. Some of these bills are 5,000 pages, 1,200 pages. And the USA Patriot Act actually was one of the shorter bills.
Right.
But I doubt very seriously if anybody who read that bill, who actually read it, most people would not have voted for it, because it literally made the entire citizenry of the United States slaves, whether they know it or not.
That's right.
And I'm one of the few American. I mean, I'm really not an American because I'm a black man and I will never get all my rights. But I'm one of the few people in America that has actually read that bill and knows what's in it, such that I can talk intelligently about the USA Patriot Act. And what they talked about was polls as to who was for, who was against the USA Patriot Act. But if a bill has 158 pages, and most Americans have not even read it, they've only heard that there was a bill, there's no way that they can give a real opinion about something that they really don't know the content of.
And see, this is what this is called, creating a fear paradigm, where you just give your basically give all of your thoughts and your opinions and your rights over to someone else to do it, because you think that you don't have the ability to do it. So what this is called in psychology is called the Hegelian dialect, where they create a problem, they create 9/11, they create a situation where you make everybody afraid, and then they come back and they give you a solution to the problem that they created. And because you're so afraid, you say, okay, well, they must know. My government must know. So I'll let them make the decisions for me. Now, you know, in order to fly out of the state of Louisiana, just in case you all didn't know, you can no longer use your driver's license. You must have a passport to fly out of the state of Louisiana, because they're saying that in the state of Louisiana, that the Louisiana driver's license does not have a comprehensive background check. So when you fly out of when you go from one place to another and you need a passport, what you are actually doing, passports are for leaving the country. See, you're not even looking at really what's going on underneath the scene. You're talking about city states. You're talking about they're setting up, you know, even you may have regions within the United States. They're beginning to start blocking us off. And so it'll make it impossible for you to leave one area, one state, without this. And inside the passport, there's an RFID chip, which is a tracking device that they use to track you, your physical being, from one place to another. I'm telling you, we better wake up and see what the government is doing and stop being entertained by this political theater, by all of the different distractions that they're putting out there, and seeing what the government is really doing. And those militia over there in where are they?
Oregon.
Oregon. Those, trust and believe, those white folks see what the government is doing. At the end of the day, they see. Now, we may look at the saying that, well, they didn't move on the militia people, but they moved on black folk, because you know why? They know what's going on.
And I'll tell you this: it's a real wide differential in terms of how folks are handled, as we've pointed out on this show, and even the Obama administration is handling these white folks who are criminals, who have violated the law, who are protesting not the murder of anybody, but they're protesting 5-year prison sentences. Well, there are 20-year and 25-year prison sentences given to young black men who might be 17, 16.
But what's the difference?
You know,
We're
all
afraid.
all the time.
Black folks live in fear.
That's the
The difference between them and us is that they're not afraid.
And I would say this, and not only that they're not afraid, is that they have a knowledge of what would or could happen to them. Because I'm not so convinced that those militia people over there are all that courageous. What I'm convinced of is that
they have white supremacy on their side.
Well,
started
right, but again, if they believed that the full might and weight of the U.S. police and military establishment would come against them.
But white supremacy is on their side.
Right.
If you kill
Right.
white folks on TV, like you kill us, you better watch out. So they know white supremacy is on their side.
White supremacy is on their side, and they know that nobody is going to move on them. They know that.
Not like they move on us.
They know that. And
So
that's what has emboldened them.
That's what
it
I'm
is
saying.
not that they are all that courageous.
Removes some of
There
their
you go.
fear.
Yeah. And that's what's emboldening
But
them.
see, when we look at TV and we see dead bodies on the street, when we see a police, Laquan, when we see and they're going to show you the video over and over and over again. So you think if you run from a police officer that somebody's going to shoot you in the back?
Isn't that something?
You're afraid.
Isn't that something? Let's go ahead and run that video. It should be about 7 minutes. Yeah. It should be about 7 minutes. I think we have that video should be queued up.
Our brother Laquan McDonald shot 16 times. We wouldn't even have known it happened, because the cover-up began the day it happened. Now look, there's so many ears that have to hear from that policeman who used his weapon and somebody lost their life. He has to speak to certain people. And in the department, there's one person that they speak to, and there's nobody in the room but the officer and that person, because he's being helped to write his report. Now, to cover up on the murder of Laquan, see, it started the moment he was shot. You asked the question, why did it take 13 months for us to see the video? And even the video that the judge said we could see, we only saw a little of it. Because what white folks saw of what their brother did was so wicked that they just knew it was going to bring a response for us. Now, the mayor was involved in a runoff back in April, I think. He could not stand for this to come out in the public while he's trying to run off against the Mexican brother. He beat the Mexican brother, but the talk now is, if this had been known, the mayor would never have been reelected. So, did he cover this up to become mayor? Anita Alvarez, state's attorney. She has a role in this. She said, I've been investigating. How long did it take you, Ms. Alvarez, to investigate something that was so egregious? You saw the picture. And then they rushed to settle. I talked to members of the city council. They didn't have all the facts. Hiding the truth is a dangerous thing. And then mixing up truth with falsehood. So the city council really didn't know. They never saw the video, but somebody represented this reprehensible murder. But the depth of it, they didn't know. So they rushed to give $5 million to the mother of Laquan, who had no hand in rearing him. He was in foster care. They didn't even want this case to go to court because so much would have to come out because there's so many liars, so many conspirators involved in this that it would come out now. So this means a house cleaning. Now the mayor got his Negroes. Some of you are just like Lazarus. You don't want a loaf of bread. You don't even want a wheat field so you could make your own bread. But you're looking for the crumbs that fall from your slave master's table. And a little crumb is good for some of our preachers. We're going to call the roll now. A little crumb is good for some of our politicians. But if you don't come down right on this issue, I think we ought to expose you so that there's no hiding place for you anywhere in the black community where you take up residence.
And of course, there you have it. That was, of course, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan weighing in on the murder of Laquan in the city of Chicago. And of course, that video did go viral all over YouTube, all over social media. And it's just one of over 1,000 last year of black men that was shot by police. Over 1,100 just last year of black men shot by police. So it's getting, it used to be once every 28 hours. Now we're looking at 1,100 just last year. And it's a situation where we can't even keep up with it. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Louis Farrakhan have said that this is going to continue to get worse until we look at the solution that God actually has for black people. That solution will not come from the political establishment. That solution has been articulated by God himself through his messengers. And it's gonna involve us being in a separate state of territory of our own at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Well, fear is the thing, is the mind killer, and it inhibits us from even considering living outside of this white supremacist, racist society. And so we have to shed ourselves of the fear of white supremacy, racism, and shed ourselves of the fear of black excellence. You know, there is such thing as black excellence.
That's
and
right.
so I would advise all of us to pick up a copy and read The Message to the Black Man in America by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because it has the solution that will help remove that fear from us.
Absolutely. And of course, everybody should be regular readers at finalcall.com. If they can't get a paper edition,
That's
they
right.
definitely need to go to finalcall.com and be informed as to what's really, really going on out here and all over the world, all the earth. Right now, they need to definitely make sure that we tap into that.
That's right.
But of course, I want to, thank everybody. Of course, this was the first show of 2016. We're gonna do our best to come back at you real hard in this year. We want to thank you for listening. God bless. As we greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, good deal.